It's the Fellowship of the Geek Show, a weekly podcast about comics, the comic book industry, and other geek pop culture. Music courtesy of Manny the Martyr. And now, on with the show! Hey everybody, it's the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast. My name is Thomas Chick, and joining me for this episode is Mike Marlowe.
Hey gang.
And Les Webster.
Hello all.
How are you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Not bad. And you?
I'm doing alright, I guess. I hope everybody out there is doing alright. So what's been going on in your corner of the galaxy?
Well, this has been a pretty boring week for me, but I mentioned last week that I've got a huge stack of trades that I'm starting to work my way through. And I'm starting to work my way through them finally.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
See, and the funny thing is I keep complaining about my huge stack of trades. The deal is that most of them I've read before in other formats. Like I read them either in floppies or I read them in review copies or something. So most of them, I mean, that's the only one that's, well, I say one, the only set that I haven't really read much before is Lenore. But everything else I've got is stuff I've read before, so that's why it's taken me so long to kind of get to them. But now I'm dead set on knocking some, especially we got a holiday coming up soon, and so I'll get a chance to really blow through a few of them, get the pile down at least.
Cool. How about you, Les?
I have spent a lot of time in front of the TV catching up on back episodes of things like Scream Queens, which I recommend again. The first season was very good. This one's just as much fun. I am caught up with Dirk Gently, which is a fun one.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of good stuff about that show.
It is fun, and it is directed by Max Landis, John Landis' son. And then on Sunday, I watched a program and found a character that I find very annoying. I was watching the new Howdy Doody Show from the 70s. And yes, Buffalo Bob Smith is still there. And this was a short run. But I found Howdy so annoying. And I know that they did it as a purpose. But if I can set this up, Bob would come out and say hello to the peanut gallery, which included so many adults that remembered him from his early days. They would sing the Howdy Doody Time theme, and afterwards Bob would start talking to the audience. And he would kind of somewhat set up the episode that you were going to watch. And if it was a continuation, which a lot of them were, he would give you a little backstory of what happened previously. But when Bob is talking, all of a sudden, from the back, is Howdy's voice going, Buffalo Bob, Buffalo Bob. And Bob would turn and go, it's Howdy, and everybody would applaud. And I think back now, and even as a kid, that's what would happen. Howdy would come out and go, Buffalo Bob, Buffalo Bob, and it started to grate my nerves. This is a stupid thing to even think of, but I was on the verge of tearing what hair I have out. And I thought, how could you do this to me? The American public probably doesn't see it at that time, but just it was so freaking annoying.
Well, I mean, it was a formula that was aimed at the 6 to 10-year-old crowd to begin with, so why would it not be annoying to you now, however many years later?
Yes, that's true. Yeah, it's what, over 40 years later?
See, I
So
wasn't going to use numbers, but you know, just
get over yourself, buddy.
trying to be cool about that. But you know, the other question I have is, where the hell do you find this?
It was on Antenna TV, right?
It's either on Antenna or on Cozy.
Yeah, because I've watched a couple episodes a while back. I've heard of him, I've seen clips and stuff, but I've never seen any of the show. So I saw it was on, I was like, okay, what the heck? And I started watching, I'm like, really? Okay.
Well, on this show, the only characters that are holdovers are Buffalo Bob and the puppets. And please don't say they were puppets, because we all know they were. They have new cast members. There's even a new Clarabelle, the clown.
Yeah.
Because Bob Keeshan was Clarabelle originally. And of course, he went on to play Captain Kangaroo.
Captain Kangaroo, yeah.
And he also had the last line of their last television program.
The only line he ever spoke, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Bye, kids.
Yeah. So what have you been up to, Thomas?
Well, like I've said the last couple shows, I've been working on some projects for the Fellowship, but I've actually had some time to sit down and I was finally able to grab and read the Teen Titans Omnibus, which collects the first few appearances in Brave and Bold, and then again in Showcase, and then the first, I believe it was 24 issues of their run. But it also includes the 6-issue run of Hawk and Dove. So this is all late 50s and 60s stuff, and it's some of it I have read through reader copies I had bought several years ago, or I've read through reprints before. But some of this I have never read, so I was excited about getting a chance to check it out. The only thing I hated about reading the 60s Titans run was you're talking about writers who are in their 30s and 40s trying to write teenagers with the lingo, and it was pretty bad.
You mean they weren't headed to it?
Yeah.
That's what crossed my mind.
It was groovy, man. It was groovy.
I know they used to use the term square so many times. I thought they were all mathematicians or something.
Generally, the stories are good. It's just, if they had not tried to make the characters so hip and just wrote them as regular characters, the material would not be as dated as it is. That's what dates it, is the lingo. Otherwise, a lot of the stories...
So as long as you can look past the dialogue, the story's great.
Oh, yeah.
That's difficult to do.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, they don't do it. It's not all the time, but just every once in a while. Now, later, they kind of get a little bit of social conscious and kind of do some of the stuff that was going on during the late 60s and that kind of stuff. But, it's still kind of an interesting read.
Oh, sure. I mean, some of that stuff is, it's just the quirks of reading stuff from that time frame, You kind of have to put up
right.
with it. At this point, I think the term that gets used is kitschy. It's part of the kitsch feel, and if you don't want that, don't read stuff from the 50s sort of thing. But yeah, so
very true.
It's cool.
I've been reading the Justice League omnibuses, and it's the same way. They try to sound hip in spots, and you go, just get past it, go ahead. But it was good at the time.
Yeah. I just don't remember it being as bad with the Justice League as it was with Teen Titans, and I think it was because you're talking about older characters.
Right, you got the teen part of Teen Titans.
You got the Teen Titans, yeah. So
they're over trying to sell the fact that they're teens.
that they're the kids, yeah. They want to push. They want to press the fact that yes, these are teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
These are just like you. They would like if they weren't trying to save the world, they would be going to the malt shop and listening to the latest records and that kind of stuff. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But remember, you had Teen Titans. We had Snapper Carr.
You know what? I'd rather put up with that snapper card than the snapper cards in the frickin' Supergirl TV show.
Oh, yes. I agree there. Yeah. It's not a good role for, is it Ian Gomez that plays Snapper?
I don't remember. He's probably enjoying it, but you know, I don't know. It seems like all the DC CW shows this season have to have a character in there just to be an asshole to the hero. You got Supergirl and Snapper Carr, and then Flash. You've got his new metahuman CSU crime partner, who's actually played by is it Tom Felton from the Harry Potter films.
Mm.
He's just annoying as heck. Although he's kind of softened a little bit the last couple of episodes, but he's still a dick. So, I mean, the character.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would love to see that guy play a different character just once in his career.
Yeah.
And he may have, and I just haven't seen it yet. But he's so heavily typecast as the asshole at this point. I hope he can find a way to break that.
Yeah. So, you know, it just seems to be the theme. In addition to whatever else is going on to the main story arc, that they gotta have someone that you just cannot stand be there just to be a prick. And okay, well, whatever. That's fine.
I don't know. I hate to explain it at this point. The deal is that a lot of stories are based around conflict, and that character is a way of having conflict without having a villain.
Oh, I get
yeah.
that. I get that.
Doesn't make it any less annoying. But
it's annoying, and you know what? There's a lot of conflicts. There can be a lot of other conflicts other than the bad guy of the week.
Right.
It would be okay if one of the shows had one, but it seems like we got to get them in all of them because our hero's life isn't complicated enough that he's leading two separate lives and doing this kind of thing. We got to throw someone in there to just be an annoying son of a bitch. But whatever.
Right. It's the easy way out. It's almost cheating to do that because it means you don't really have to think real hard about writing. You don't have to come up with an interesting idea to challenge your superhero without conflict. I mean, honestly, and you don't really have to work that hard. All you have to do is start watching Star Trek: The Next Generation. If you want to watch a show that made, I mean, bits and pieces of every season, you would have an episode where there really wasn't a bad guy, and they still managed to have a decent episode. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because it's one of those no natural predators type ideas. I mean, that was the whole deal with The Next Generation was we're beyond the conflict thing, but there are still ways. And 7 seasons that show ran, and they found ways every season to have shows without conflict that were still interesting, because that's really hard.
And without having to have a person there every episode that's going, okay, I'm just going to make your life more irritating because I'm here.
Right. And, I mean, there would be one of those occasionally, maybe. But
yeah,
it was occasionally.
Every once in a while. Occasionally.
It was occasionally. Other than that, it was a problem that had to be solved or something like that. And I mean, it's just definitely putting forth more effort than these people are doing. Boy, we kind of sidetracked there, didn't we?
That's okay.
It was their howdy doody of their program every week.
Yep. All right, it all ties together somehow, doesn't it?
Wow. Leave it to
It's
Les to
that
do that.
it's that holistic detective type thing.
See, that reminds me too. I have to admit, when y'all started talking about the Dirk Gently thing, I mean, and it was only a couple of months ago, I got confused because BBC had done a Dirk Gently series like 4 or 5 years ago. And so
Yes.
it may not even been that long. And so you guys started talking about that, and I was like, oh, they're doing that. They're bringing that back already. But no, this is something entirely different. And so I had gotten confused about that when it first came up. I was like, oh wow, cool. And then I had no idea what you were talking about really. But
Yes, this is a new story, new actors, and it's following the idea of a Douglas Adams presentation fairly well, like the Hitchhiker's Guide. You have a character that it has no blooming idea as to what is going on, yet he's part of it. And he's brought into it by Dirk Gently. And as a result, at times I'm sitting there going, what the frill just happened? I'd have to rewind and watch it again.
hmm you see, and that was the mistake that the earlier one made, was that they, because I really only ever watched the pilot, and I was kind of meh on it because they seemed to feel like they had to explain everything. And I'm like, have you not read Dirk Gently? There is no explaining everything. That's insane. You can't do that. That's not how that worked. That was the point of Dirk Gently, was not to explain everything. It was to explain a couple of little pieces. The rest of it was chaos. And that was okay. It was fun. It was Douglas Adams writing it. It worked out great. So that was why the one from 4 or 5 years ago didn't work, in my opinion. But
And I agree with you.
I have to track down the new one and see how it goes.
If you can do, because it's a fun program, and it's I guess our biggest star in it is Elijah Wood.
Yeah.
He plays the person that has no clue what's going on around him.
What the hell was
But
his
as you
name?
watch it, I'm sorry?
What was his name in the book? I can't remember his name.
Yeah, I'm sorry you had to ask.
Perfect. Yeah, I know. I totally made it. I ran it out of everybody else's brain too.
But it's just one of those things that as the program goes on, everything starts to fit, and you're both nodding that you're understanding it, and you're scratching your head going, I don't know where this is finally going, but I can see what they're trying to lay out for it too.
So great, another role where Elijah Wood basically has his eyes open wide going, I don't get this.
Right, stumbling around in a daze, absolutely.
Talk about being typecast.
Yeah, seriously. All this one lacks is a ring.
This even came before with the Good Son.
Well, cool. Before we get into tonight's topic, we're going to take a couple moments to shout out to our sponsors. First of all, I want to say thank you to Make Mine Indie for being a sponsor of the fellowship. And I also want to say thank you to Things from Another World, who's a sponsor of us as well. If you go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and click on the sponsors link, you can check out some of the deals that they're being offered right now. With Make My Indie, the fall catalog, which came out in September, is available there. You click on to their image on the left-hand side of the screen. It'll take you to your the website, and there's a free download, 180 pages of some great indie comics, most of which you probably have not even heard of. Some of them are not available at bookstores, just digitally online. Some really cool stuff. Totally dig some of the stuff that I've heard of. And of course, this is a think I said it's 180 pages. A lot of them are going to have 2-3 pages of previews, so you can get an idea what the story is about and the art, and you definitely want to check that out.
Yeah, there's also a couple of them have like some reviews posted in the catalog, just to give you kind of a better idea of how the whole thing looks. Yeah, there's some really cool stuff in there.
Yep. And there's some great deals coming down from Things from Another World. Their Black Friday sale just started right now. If you click over there, you click on our link at our page, you can save 60% on thousands of in-stock items. You can also save $5 on your order of $50 or more. That expires December 16th. I believe the Black Friday sales goes on for a month. I'll have to go back and check, but it is going on right now.
So it's not just Black Friday.
It's not just Black Friday. It's going on. It's right now.
Sweet.
Yep. Then of course there's the deals that are always going on. 40% off on comics, statues, toys, and merchandise. You can save 30% off select pre-order manga titles. And of course, there's always the 50% off Nick and Dent comics and trades, which is always an awesome deal. Mm-hmm. So if you go over to our website, go to our sponsors page, and you can click on the links over there. That'll let them know that we sent you their way. And, man, just take advantage of the savings. There's some really good stuff right now.
On both sides, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, exactly. So thank you to the kind of people from Make Mine Indie and Things from Another World for supporting the fellowship. It's greatly appreciated.
Yeah, thanks.
For today's topic, this actually came from Les. Les is the one that suggested this. So I am going to turn the floor over to him, and there you go, Les.
Tell us a story.
Tell us a story.
Okay, now you kids just settle down. What I was thinking was, there have been movies made from comic storylines, yet the movie didn't do so well. I was thinking about the fact that there were some titles that essentially killed a comic book. The publisher looked at it and said, well, we're not going to make any money after this fiasco, whether it be on television or in the movies. It's just one of those things that you wish that they would think twice about before they attempt to produce a movie or a television show that is just going to kill the sales of the comic book. And if I may, guys, I'm going to just start with the first. And this doesn't mean that the movie or the television program killed the comic forever, because obviously new renditions show up all the time. But the first one I wanted to look at was Howard the Duck. The reason I look at it was, as painful to me to watch this movie, I had hoped that the series would be fairly unaffected. The comic book series did go on for a year or so, but it was shown to be one of those that just, the factor of the movie just slashed the subscription orders over half. And to me, that was the demise of the Howard the Duck comic book. Like I said, though, he has made returns, and he is, well, is there a series going on right now? I know that he had one 6 months ago, but I'm not sure that they're even carrying it now. Do you recall, Thomas?
I'm not sure if it's still going right now. He did have one. Now there's going to be a Deadpool the Duck. Now I don't know if that's Howard just dressed up as Deadpool or Deadpool turned into a duck or whatever, but that's about the closest thing. But yeah, he did have one there for a bit.
They had a big crossover with Squirrel Girl. And after that, I don't know that there was another Howard the Duck comic. Folks, please let us know. I've got a feeling there would be. I don't see that would be a killing shot for the comic, just that crossover, because Squirrel Girl is going strong. But I just didn't know if just this current version of Howard has disappeared from the shelves. If I may, even another, have you guys got anything? Let's start with that. Have you guys got anything?
Well, sure, of course we do. I'll throw one out there. I'm actually gonna go with the elephant in the room. I'm gonna go with one that is so brutally obvious, mainly because it's fairly recent. And there are also outside reasons for it. But Fantastic Four is gone now. Whether there are any plans to bring it back, I'm not sure. But apparently, thanks to the new movie from a couple of years ago that everybody seemed to hate. They've just completely, and a lot of this, I mean, honestly, technically, this thing was killed by the front office more than anything else, because of, I mean, it had to do with all of the stuff with Fox. Was it Fox? It was Fox, right?
Yeah, it's Fox and Marvel.
Yeah. Marvel had to sell it off years and years ago, and Fox is at this point just making some kind of movie every so often just to not let go of the rights. So ultimately, Marvel kills the title so that it in their own petty little attempt to completely kill all interest in the Fantastic Four entirely, at least for long enough to try to get the rights back. I can't say I agree with the choice, but it's also not my decision. But I don't know. I heard enough bad stuff about the movie that I didn't watch it, and most of what I heard said that it was, if you took all of the worst parts of the previous two movies that had come out like 10 years before, then that was what this movie was. So I don't know. I find it hard to believe that Fantastic Four was as successful as it was for as long as it was, and now we just can't seem to make a decent movie out of it all of a sudden. I just don't quite get that. Doesn't make sense to me.
I don't get it either. There's some. I would go really cheesy and say there's some fantastic stories, but there's some really awesome stories that could have been translated to the big screen.
Right. If we could just get over trying to redo the origin story every time, we might actually get somewhere with that.
And it's not like they have to adapt a story from the comics. We kind of talked about that before. Just capture the spirit of the comics. I think that's what a lot of people would be happy with.
Well, hell, so far they haven't been able to do that in the reboots. They haven't been able to do that with the origin story. They can't seem to figure out how the dynamic works between these characters. And, it didn't seem that complicated to me when I read them for a little while. I don't know.
I don't know either.
Puzzling.
They had problem on television on The Incredible Hulk when they decided to bring in Daredevil and Doctor Strange. They were just one-shot episodes. Hopefully they were thinking that these will span out to their own series, but obviously that didn't kill the books.
But it didn't spiral off into another series either.
Nope.
Yes, right. But I agree with you on Fantastic Four, because the first two were entertaining, although they used the same villain in both. They couldn't get any more creative than Victor Von Doom twice.
Well, they had a different villain in the second one. They picked the worst possible villain they could have for a visual medium.
Galactus.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
You either have to give him the funky headgear or make him not visible somehow, and they managed to screw that up somehow. I don't know how, but whatever.
Yeah, I've had that discussion with several people. I know a lot of people complain about the fact that Galactus was basically a humongous cloud, and I was like, okay, so if you really want to do it via the way the comics was, you want a unbelievably tall man in purple and blue armor, especially with the headgear.
Right. I mean, from a scientific standpoint, the cloud makes more sense.
And I kind of get a stunned response from them. And I'm like, the general public who do not know the characters would just laugh their ass off when they see that, because all of a sudden it's turned into a 50s sci-fi movie, which basically, I mean, he was created in the 60s, so, we're not far off.
That's where it was, right. Exactly.
But it reminded me, Galactus in cloud form appeared, and I looked and said, "What, V'ger?"
Carbon-based forms are not.
Kirk unit.
Yes.
Carbon-based forms are not true life forms.
Well, and I mean, honestly, how much more sense does it make to have the giant man in the sky?
Yeah.
I mean, all other possible references set aside.
Yeah.
It doesn't. It just doesn't work as a humanoid. It doesn't. There's too many reasons why that doesn't make sense, and so you're not going to be able to pull that off with a modern audience. It just doesn't. It's just like you said. They're just going to laugh their asses off at it.
Oh.
Anyway.
That movie could have used a laugh though too.
Oh God, seriously.
Mm.
So could the first one, but one could argue that they tried.
And that was with Chris Evans before he could show he can do a straight role without being a smartass.
True.
Language, though.
Yeah. Chris Evans doing his best Ryan Reynolds impersonation.
Yeah, I did have Fantastic Four on my list for the very reasons that you had. I'm sure we all thought of it. One I had, and this may not be totally accurate or totally what you were going for less, but I was thinking about classic Battlestar Galactica. Here's a series that basically was only around for one season, and the reason why I didn't go any further was not really because of the ratings. It was because it was so expensive to produce the shows. That's why the space fighting scenes were recycled episode to episode, because it saved on cost. At the same time, Marvel was doing a comic book series that basically lasted another year after the show was off. And I think it did rather well. It was a really good series. It actually kind of went a little darker than what was shown on the show. But I think it basically was canceled because there was nothing else really to perpetuate the interest, because the show was already gone, although we were still about a year or so. It was about a year or so later before Galactica 80 came on, and of course that basically killed whatever interest there was in the show.
That killed it for 25 years.
But I would love to see all that stuff collected. I would love to read that stuff again. It was a really interesting read. That was actually the series that introduced me to Walter Simonson's art toward the end.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool that you managed to find an opposite, like an inverse example. Instead of a comic series that was killed by another media, you found one that couldn't survive without another media. I like that.
Very true. Well, currently, if we bend toward Mike's theory, Fantastic Four, yeah. Right now, the X-Men is currently going at undergoing a chopping. So, they're doing Death of X. So, to me, they're really undermining their X titles by presenting this.
Well, once again, it's basically for the same reasons as Fantastic Four. The movie rights are owned by Fox. I'm not sure exactly what the thinking is with Marvel Comics regarding the X titles. It seems like what they're trying to do is drive interest away from them to, obviously, to the Inhumans, because that's what they have control over for live action properties. But X-Men has always been popular since the revamp in the mid '70s. I mean, even the dip during the '90s, it was still a very popular book. So I don't understand alienating fans just for this reason. But hey, like you said, Mikey, we don't make decisions here.
It's the almighty dollar. I mean,
Yeah.
it's that they want the money, and they want the rights back so that they can be the ones making the tons of money. That's ultimately that's what it boils down to. It's their business. I mean, and they're going to try to do what they can do to make a lot of money.
And the X-Men movies was doing well. Unfortunately, to me, the Wolverine movies weren't all that good, but the X-Men movies.
There's an irony there.
Yeah.
There's an irony there because, see, this is where I actually had X-Men on my list too, but I had it from a different perspective.
Okay.
My argument is that the X-Men killed itself long before any of this stuff happened. You alluded to it a second ago, Tom. The resurgence in the 70s. Why did it resurge in the 70s? What happened in the 70s that made it get popular real fast? We added a character, as I recall.
Mm-hmm.
When Wolverine joined the X-Men, I contend that the X-Men ceased to exist. The X-Men died right then and there, and it just became Wolverine's book all the way through. Everybody else was just bit players, as you could tell by how much freaking turnover there was on the team. It seemed like there was always somebody new coming in, and the whole thing was intended to ride the popularity of Wolverine. And so my argument here is they killed themselves by adding this new interesting character. I mean, and there's no doubt about it, Wolverine's a good character. He's a great character. A lot of that, I think, is the mystery. And that was not something that you had before on the X-Men. Everybody knew everybody. Everybody, they'd all grown up together, and so there was no mystery at all involved. But now you've got this Wolverine guy coming in, and he's kind of this mysterious figure, and he's not really in charge, but he's still driving everything, at least for a while, very directly. And then somehow that becomes wildly popular, and X-Men soars in popularity. But it's not really the X-Men soaring in popularity. They become the Supremes to Wolverine's Diana Ross. I mean, they may be good singers, but who would know, because you've got Wolverine in front of them.
And I'm gonna add to what you just said. It's not just that he was a mysterious character, but in the early days he was a threat because he could go into these rages. He had an animal side to him that could not be controlled sometimes. So there was a danger there. So I think that kind of added to it as well as the mystery. It was just the whole package.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. The mystery was not by itself. The mystery
Right.
was not by itself. It came with a bunch of other stuff, and that for me was just a big part of it. But yeah, so that irony is that the X-Men movies, I mean, now that they've gotten through the first reboot, because something broke in the Bryan Singer ones, And so once they've gotten into this set, they're way more popular than the Wolverine movies.
And now we're going to get rebooted again. Yay.
And I'm going to be real shocked if we don't end up. I mean, yes, this next one is supposedly the last one with Hugh Jackman. What you want to bet 5 years down the road we don't have a new Wolverine?
Oh, yeah.
Because, man, I mean, something's going to have to give because, I mean, the movies are going to have to improve. But I don't think they're going to worry about that either. I think they're just going to keep, because people will still go see a mediocre movie.
Mm-hmm.
They just have to find somebody to be the face of Wolverine after they have to find somebody to follow Hugh Jackman. They have to find their George Lazenby.
I don't think he'll be accepted. I think he will be a George Lazenby.
Absolutely. And then they'll end up having to find somebody else totally different. And somehow that'll work. Or at least it'll get them enough money that they won't care if it works. What they probably need to do is find somebody who sucks, put out a movie with somebody who sucks, and then find somebody marginally better, and that guy will look like a genius, and they'll keep going. Whether they'll intentionally tank an entire movie, I don't know, but I bet they won't. But
I agree.
Honestly, what they should do, and of course, once again, they're not asking us for our opinions. Yes, this next one is going to be the last one. I say retire him for a while. Let's move on to some of the other characters and see what happens. There was a lot of interest for a Gambit film. Right now, doesn't look like it's ever going to happen. But there's a couple other characters they could probably do, maybe. And then if you want to bring them back somewhere down the line, let's not rush to try to get a replacement for Hugh Jackman and then just keep on going like nothing's happened. But that would be my game plan. But I'm not the one that's making millions of dollars, so
and hey,
I can't back it.
If any of you anybody who works at Marvel wants to come on the show and discuss this with us, we'll be happy to do that. That'd be great.
Yep.
After we get out of feeling the awe of being in the presence of someone. Well, let me ask you this one then. What about the Punisher? The Punisher there were 3 movies?
Were there?
I know there were 2.
Was there more than one that actually went to theaters, or were they straight to video?
Yeah, there was 2 that went to the theaters.
Okay. I was pretty sure the third one didn't.
I think Word Journal did. I don't know if it was there long.
I don't think any of them were there long.
But yeah, there was 3 films.
And then that title disappeared for a while. Let's take this though. Let's not say that other publishers are voiding this, because just before All-Star Western in the New 52 came out, there was this movie called Jonah Hex.
Oh, please don't remind me.
And that, unfortunately, the All-Star Western only lasted a year, I think. And it was a good title, but people thought, oh, Jonah Hex, I got to stay away from this because I witnessed the movie.
The sad thing was Jonah Hex run before they canceled it and then did the All-Star Western was a really good book. Palmiotti and Gray wrote every freaking issue, and it was an awesome read. They could do an awesome Jonah Hex. They don't need, in this day and age, they think they gotta trick things up. And with the film, they figured, okay, he needs to be able to he reanimated dead people just to talk to them, or he was able to somehow communicate with them. So you had all of that. Then there was a little bit of a steampunk element to it, which I kind of overlooked. I was like, okay, he's got freaking gun turrets on both sides of his horse. Okay, whatever. But
what year did this come out?
2011, 2010.
Yeah, I believe so. 10 or 11.
Now,
Because it almost sounds like you're describing the Wild Wild West movie,
yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
which utterly bombed. And why would we try to duplicate that? How long do you think you could sit before you can try to reboot that with some other property? That's just twisted.
And the thing was Josh Brolin was an awesome X. He was really good. And then you got John Malkovich as a villain. Of course, he can only do so much of what he can do with what was given to him.
Right.
And it was just, oh, that was such a disappointment.
Anybody else?
I was trying to think of some more, and I'm sure down the road I'll go, oh yeah, that one. But right now,
I've got one more.
okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
And this is, I kind of sort of pulled out my crystal ball on this because this is not one that has actually bombed yet. Actually, the current movie is out and it seems to be doing pretty well. But the way this has run in the past, as far as comics go, it's one of those that I find myself wondering how it's going to work. I'm not sure what's going to happen with Doctor Strange. My fear is that the problem that they've had is that the same problem that most comic book stuff has had, the most comic book media, most movies and TV shows and animation has had, is that they get hung up on the origin story. And so they feel like they have to, every time they do something new with it, they have to do the origin story again. And then all of a sudden, well, that's the whole first movie is the origin story. And what are they going to do after that? And so my fear with Doctor Strange is that they're not going to be able to sustain anything. And I mean, my understanding of Doctor Strange's history in comics it's been very spotty. You do something interesting to kind of bring him back into the limelight, and then it sort of starts to sputter after a little bit. And so my fear is that with Hollywood's obsession with origin stories, you're going to get what's going to be apparently a fairly successful movie here right now. And then because it's going to be successful, they're going to want to do a sequel. But
Where do you go from there?
yeah, what story are you going to pull for a sequel? Are you going to do the same thing you did with Fantastic Four and totally suck ass on the sequel? Or are you going to just randomly pick a story from the olden days of the comics? I mean, Doctor Strange is a tricky one anyway because, I mean, you're talking 60s and 70s. You're talking a lot of kind of psychedelic influence, and that's not necessarily going to work the same way now. I mean, I haven't seen the movie yet, so I don't know, but I mean, even just from the trailers, there's some of the psychedelic stuff, I mean, is clearly CG, but beyond that, it's still not necessarily all that psychedelic looking, and I don't know. I just don't know how it's going to translate, and my fear is that they're going to kind of mess themselves up with that again, like they seem to do all the time anyway. You're gonna do a Doctor Strange 2, and you're gonna not get any interest in it because it's some sort of weird, trippy story because that's what your base material is for Doctor Strange. I don't know. It's one of those things where I'm afraid it's going to fade away. I mean, is there currently a Doctor Strange book running,
Yes.
for example?
Yes, there is.
How long's it been going?
I think we are up to issue 12, and there is a secondary series started, and we are actually, and it's kind of funny going back to it, is there's going to be a mini-series that's going to have him co-starring with the Punisher.
Okay, if they can find ways to keep the crossover thing happening and make it work well, maybe you can find something. Maybe, oh, you know what? Okay, I know why they're tying them together with the Punisher. It's that whole Defenders thing.
Probably.
Yeah. Which could be cool to have him show up in the Netflix stuff. That would be cool. Again, you're gonna have trouble with budgets and such, but I don't know. There are ways to make it work, and I hope they can find one. I don't know. I'm not sure historically that I'm not entirely optimistic because of the way sometimes they just get too hung up on certain aspects. Am I making any sense at this point? I don't even know.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was also thinking of a couple of titles that were real small runs, and they were not by the big three, but the movies Speed Racer and Thunderbirds. Both of those had small run comics at the time, and they disappeared quick.
Both movies bombed.
Yeah, badly.
I didn't even realize the Thunderbirds movie was serious.
I tell you what, the other day I caught a little bit of the Speed Racer film, and I actually sat and tried to watch it, and I was like, wow, okay. You know,
Never get that time back.
it was just the cartoon was kind of cool, but watching the movie, it just I don't know, I was just, but yeah, it's never Speed Racer or what was the other one?
Thunderbirds?
Thunderbirds. I don't think there's actually been an American comic for Thunderbirds. I know there's been a British one, but I may be mistaken. If those who are listening are yelling at me right now, but hey, send us a message. Send me a message saying, hey, they did. There was this run by this publisher, and I'll go, okay.
If I'm wrong, let me know.
But yeah, I know there's been Speed Racer comics. They show up every once in a blue moon. It's kind of sporadic, but God, yeah, the movie was a movie.
And that explains that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I could, on the other front, Thomas, you showed me the article that really got me going, and I want to see this one.
What website was I showing you? I can't remember.
This was the adaptation of Bone.
Oh, okay, yeah, that one. All right, yeah.
And this one I'm excited about because I thought that was such a fun read. And Jeff Smith pulled it off all the way through. It only ran 30 some issues, yet he got such a great story out of every chapter of it. And it was in all ages, so I was in on it from the start. But you can get the collections now, and the one collection I told Thomas the one collection to get is the black and white single volume, because it is such a fun read, and you get to read it the way it was presented originally in the black and white format. I'm just hoping that this one will do it good, because we know it's not going to kill the comic. Comic was finished
a long time ago.
5 years or more ago.
Yep.
So,
did you happen to see the backlash from that article online?
No.
Apparently some people are upset because the article refers to Bone as a cult classic. This was an award-winning book that apparently, because it's a comic, the writers of this article decided it was only a cult classic. And so, yeah, some people online are pretty pissed about that. It's like, wow, really? Because it's a comic, it's not real? It doesn't deserve to just be called a classic?
well, I saw an advertisement for a movie the other day on television. They said it was a cult classic, and I thought, that it hasn't been out more than 2 years. How is it a cult classic? I don't see people standing waiting for tickets for it, such as Rocky Horror does.
And I'm not going to defend the use of the phrase, but I think what they were trying to say, because I think they used the words cult classic because the general public's not going to know who Bone is, just like a lot of these that are coming from the comic form. The general public's not going to know.
That's fine, but that's not what a cult classic is.
Yeah, I know. I'm not. I'm not. Like I said, I'm not trying to defend them. I'm just saying this is. Yeah.
Right. It's.
I'm trying to get into someone else's head, which is not a good thing to do.
Yeah. I don't know, because I mean, I'm not. I just think it's a poor choice. It was a poor choice of words.
It is
on their part, and because, like I said, National Book Awards, at least one. I can't remember which one off the top of my head, but I mean, so there's it's just not. There's maybe it was just that it was a New York Times bestseller. Maybe that was what it was. But
it's just
how many other New York Times bestsellers are considered cult classics at this point? I bet not very many, because they become classics because they're real books, or so the people complaining online would think. But yeah,
it's another case of journalists not doing their research.
Right.
They could have just used Google for a couple minutes to find out information about Bone. Mm-hmm. And yeah, they would have been able to find out what awards it's won, and then be able to say, hey, this is what it's won, this is,
this is
all
legit,
that kind of stuff.
And this is why.
Yeah.
And yeah, but they didn't bother to do that.
Surprise, surprise. A journalist doesn't do research.
Yeah, true enough. Anyway, I derailed that pretty good.
Woohoo! Any other choices? Any other examples?
That's what I had.
Okay.
I'm tapped.
All right. Well.
Like a maple tree.
And on that note, we're going to take a quick break and come back with Weekly Fix. And we're back. It's time for Weekly Picks, and leading off is Les.
My first pick for this week is Athena Voltaire and the Volcano Goddess. This is going to be put out by Action Lab. The writer/artist is Stephen Bryant. This is a new miniseries for the character Athena Voltaire, which struck me as a female Indiana Jones. So it's got the feel of, say, the 30s and 40s, and it's treasure hunting of some sort, usually. So I've got a feeling that this is going to fall right into place with the previous stories that they've done. The first volume that I purchased, I thoroughly enjoyed, and I think this will follow suit, plus the fact that they're continuing to me, a known character. So hopefully people will get out and try this one.
Cool. Nice pick.
Yeah, I'm going to have to check that one out.
Alrighty, Mikey.
Okay. My first pick is an Image book, and it is The Black Monday Murders. This is issue 4 that's coming out, and this is written by Jonathan Hickman and drawn by Tom Coker. And if you're not familiar with this issue will wrap up the first arc, and this is a story about, it's about a murder, and there's a cop, and he's kind of got this weird gift thing going on, but ultimately this is pretty much about a financial institution of all things, and some of the strange and weird almost cult-like things going on with it. It's very conspiratorial, and it's a very interesting kind of look into how occult conspiracy type stuff could look if it's all centered in a bank that's been around for like 200 years. And there's a lot of weirdness and a lot of fun in this book. It's kind of dark, but it's still really interesting read.
I admit I have not picked up on this book, but I've heard a lot of good buzz about it. So yeah, I'm gonna have to backtrack and check out the other issues and get caught up because it sounds rather interesting.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
What I've seen of it too, it is a good read, good solid read.
Cool. So my first pick is from Titan Comics. It's part of their hard case crime imprint based off the noir novels. It's Peepland number 2, written by Gary Phillips and Krista Faust, and art by Andrea Camerini. And the story is a man's been murdered, and a videotape is he was carrying a videotape, and there's a secret. It's on the videotape. It's now in the hands of a peep show operator and her ex-boyfriend, and they're trying to find out what's on the tape. And meanwhile, they're being pursued by the police, and they're being pursued by other people who are responsible for the murder of the guy who was actually a video pornographer. First issue was very interesting. I thought it was it was a nice little noir tale, and this is based in the mid-'80s. So it was really cool. So I'm interested in seeing how the next issue is and see where we go from there.
Cool.
Good choice.
Yeah. Sounds like fun.
Yep. Les, you're up again.
For my second choice, it too is a mini-series from DC this time. Superpowers number 1 comes out. This is by Art Baltazar and Franco. The art is done by Baltazar. This is going to be a team of the DC Trinity: Wonder Woman, Superman, and Batman. And I'm hoping that, I think this will follow something similar to what these two creators did with their series Tiny Titans, and one that I really enjoyed, Superman Family Adventures. I'm sure that there'll be humor in this one. It's an all-ages title, so I believe the public will think that this is, to me, it's a great fun. These guys do such a good job of their stories, and they're very simplistically detailed artwork.
Yeah, I'm kind of excited about this one as well. Tiny Titans was really fun. I love their little Hellboy for Dark Horse. That was a trip to read too.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. What these guys do is they take these things, these properties that are usually not all ages stuff, and they make it really accessible, and it just tends to work really well.
Yeah, they do a good job. They really do.
Could you see them doing Deadpool?
That would be interesting, yes.
I'm surprised they haven't been approached, but hey. Marvel, if you're listening, you need to give credit to Les.
Again, come
Les
on down, right.
Les is the one that just suggested it, so it's on record. Alrighty.
Beep, beep, beep.
Who are we beeping for?
I have no idea.
Marvel, maybe. I don't know.
I guess.
No,
Trying to give you credit.
He was just naming me.
That's what credit is. It's putting a name to things. That's how that works. He's trying to get you a paycheck here, dude. Chill out.
Gotcha.
Okay, Mikey, let's get your second.
Okay. All right, to try to top that, I will go with an IDW book, and we're gonna go with Hot Damn. This is the trade that's coming out this week from the 5-issue series from Ryan Ferrier and Valentin Ramon. This is the story of a fellow named Teddy Graham. I kid you not. That's his name. He is not a cookie. He is in fact a hard partying druggie who died and went to hell to discover that hell is basically a therapy session, pretty much over and over and over and over and over and over. And he manages to find a way to have adventures in the middle of this, and it's this book. It's, if nothing else, you want to get this just to see the end page of the first issue, because it is there's so much just completely fascinating and hilarious detail in that last image. It's worth it. It's entirely worth it just for that. It's the story is fun and it goes on beyond that, obviously, but that, oh man, it's that page is just a hoot. And you kind of have to sit there and stare at it for like 10 minutes to just take it all in, because there's just so much fun in that. And it essentially, it's like Satan's office, just to give you kind of a preview. And oh my god, it's great.
So hell is a therapy session, huh?
Hell is a therapy session.
Sounds about right.
Hell is an endless therapy session.
Yep, it does sound about
And
right.
we're talking like group therapy. We're not talking about the fun talking to one person therapy. We're talking about the horrible group therapy thing.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a hoot. It's hilarious.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to check that one out. Cool. My second choice is from Dynamite Comics. It is the third issue of The Great Divide. I believe it's a miniseries, 5 or 6 issues. Written by Ben Fisher with art by Adam Markiewicz. I'm sure I butchered that. I'm sorry. The premise is a post-apocalyptic Earth. Of course, I always butcher that damn word. The thing is a plague. If the plague happens to be, if someone's infected and they touch another person, that person dies in horrible agony. And we are following, in this story, we are following Paul. He's the lead character. And in this issue, Maria is with him, and she's trying to decide if she wants to go ahead and go to Seattle, or is she going to stay around and try to save, I believe it was Paul, who killed her brother. And I think it was either issue 1 or issue 2. Really, really interesting story, and the art is pretty incredible. I've been digging this book so far.
Yeah, I agree. It's the premise is a lot of fun to watch, to see how it unfolds, and to see how people can try to interact without actually ever touching. And it's, yeah.
Exactly. I remember the first issue where Paul wound up in a room with a prostitute that they never touched. He just watched. Mm-hmm. And it's a novel concept. I mean, we've seen something along these lines where it's been a disease or something else, but it's something like this where it's just basically human contact is kind of a different take, and then they just use that, and it's been a very interesting book, and I've enjoyed it so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too.
Cool. Any other choices? Any honorable mentions this week?
No, I actually don't have any this week, I don't think.
There's always a lot of good selections out there.
Oh yeah, it's not that there aren't good books coming out. It's just,
yeah. Yeah, we just trying to save time.
A lot of times it's narrowing it down to one or two.
Yeah, exactly.
It's hard enough
Exactly.
to pick two to pick for the thing, and then to try to narrow it down to one or two more is tricky. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Yep. Okay. Any special mentions before we start wrapping things up for the week?
Don't think so.
Les?
I've got a big bag of nothing.
Okay. Well, since this episode will hit before the holiday, I want to take a moment to wish everybody a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Safe travels if you have to. Hope you have a good time, and we'll see you on the opposite side for the Christmas season.
Yeah, good luck with all that Black Friday madness if you choose to partake in such.
Yeah, exactly.
And the following Monday.
Well, you don't have to do that, especially if you're shopping for comic people. You can go to things from another world.
Oh man!
Or go to our website, and then you can go to things from another world from our website. There you go.
Dude, you're getting good at this. I'm telling you.
I'm learning. It takes me a bit. Alrighty, let's get to our shout-outs then. First off, as always, Manny the Martyr for the awesome music you hear every week, or if you listen to several of these in a row. Thank you guys. Thank you for allowing us to use your music. It's awesome. Of course, we'll have a link to their Facebook page in our show notes, and of course, there is a link on our podcast page on the website. So go check them out. And of course, we need to thank #Potter Family, who's about to celebrate their 1-year anniversary coming up in December. How cool is that?
They are.
That is great.
It's pretty neat.
We thank them for the support and spreading the word of the fellowship and this little podcast. We wouldn't be as successful as we have been if it wasn't for you guys. Is there any particular shout-outs this week, Mikey?
I was trying to think about this earlier. I will throw one out just for jollies, just because they are a fairly new show that I have recently discovered. There's a show called the Drift and Ramble podcast, and what they do is it's this guy Steve, and it's a historical based show where he's going back and looking at several. So far he's done several topics basically based on the Old West, and he talks about them kind of he does some research and talks about specific things. Like one he talked about was the Comstock Lode. He recently, I think his most recent episode is about Judge Roy Bean, and so it's if you're into the historical type stuff, it's a lot of fun. And so what the hell, shout out to them.
That's
Sounds
cool.
pretty cool. Yep, I agree. Sounds awesome. So a lot of awesome podcasts out there. If you have a Twitter account, or even if you don't have a Twitter account, you can go to the Twitter page and do a search for #Potter Family, and you will see literally hundreds of different shows on anything you can think of being done by a lot of cool people. So I really suggest y'all check them out. And once again, guys, thank y'all very much for spreading the word of the fellowship. It's very much appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, we have to take a moment to thank you. I mean, if there wasn't you, well, we would still be doing this, but still, thank you. Thank you for downloading our episodes. Thank you for listening. We're always open for comments, suggestions, questions, anything. You want to contact us, please feel free to do so. You can go to our website, www.thefellowshipofthegeeks.net, and click on the About Us Contact Us page. There's a form there you can fill out, or if you want to just send us an email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. or you can contact us through our social media. We are on Facebook, The Fellowship of the Geeks, one word, and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Mikey has his own personal page. It's at Mikey Geek, and I have one as well at Tom TC Geek. Please feel free to follow us and just do a shout out saying, hey, caught y'all on the Fellowship of the Geeks podcast and think you're pretty cool, or if you got any questions or something, feel free and we will respond as quickly as we can.
Yeah, questions, suggestions, whatever kind of feedback you got. Let us know what you thought about the Jonah Hex movie. What the heck?
Okay,
it's at least a conversation starter, right?
Okay, that's going to be our question of the week, is what do you think about the Jonah Hex film? All right, that'll work.
Sure,
that's fine with me. Hey, I'm not complaining.
And here I was trying to scrub my mind, and you did that.
You're not on Twitter. What do you care?
All right. Any final thoughts? Anything else before we wrap it up? Before we say goodbye?
If you get a chance, you're listening to us on iTunes or Stitcher or Google Play. We also post our stuff on YouTube if you're interested. If you get a chance, maybe hit a thumbs up or a rating of some sort, and maybe if you have a spare minute, throw up a review up there and tell them what you think about our show. I mean, hopefully it's positive and all that, but we'll take honesty if we have to. But yeah, if you get a chance, let them know what you think. That way they kind of get the idea that maybe these guys are doing something, sort of thing.
Yep. Good. Yeah. Thank you, Mikey. I almost forgot that, so I'm glad you got that. Please, any kind of rating and or review would be awesome. Anything else?
Other than thanks, everybody, I think we're good.
Okay.
I iterate that.
Thank you again, everybody, for listening. Once again, want to wish y'all a safe and happy Thanksgiving. Appreciate you taking the time to listen to the show. Until next time, read more comics and support your local stores. We thank you for listening to the show. Comments, suggestions, and questions can be sent to email at thefellowshipofthegeeks.net. You can follow us on Facebook at The Fellowship of the Geeks and on Twitter at Fellowship Geeks. Until next time,